The applause around me was loud, almost deafening, but it wasn't for me. Not really. I stood in line on the stage, my black graduation gown draped perfectly, cap pinned in place, the gold tassel brushing against my cheek. The announcer called my name. Samantha Reed, Master's in Clinical Psychology. I walked forward, chin high, smile tight. Cameras flashed from the audience, but none of them belonged to my family. Their seats, 5 of them right in the middle row, sat empty. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us what would you do in this situation. Be honest. Tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. I'd known they wouldn't be here. They were probably clinking champagne glasses right now, celebrating my younger sister Danielle's bridal shower in my parents' backyard. Still, the sight of those vacant chairs burned into my chest like acid. I took my diploma holder from the dean, shook his hand, and forced myself to hold the smile until I stepped off the stage. My heels clicked sharply against the floor as I crossed to the side where graduates were gathering. I flipped open the holder, expecting to see the fancy paper with my degree. Instead, something slid out. An envelope, plain white, no return address. The paper looked expensive, heavier than normal. My name, Sam, was handwritten in a familiar, neat style. For a second, I thought maybe it was from one of my professors, but my fingers hesitated. The hum of the crowd seemed to fade away, replaced by the sharp, insistent buzz of my phone in my pocket. I pulled it out. 72 missed calls, all from Mom, Dad, and Danielle. The buzzing continued as I stood frozen, my thumb hovering over the envelope's flap. Something in my gut twisted. My breath came shallow. Sam? A voice pulled me back. It was Rebecca, my best friend from the program. What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. I shoved the envelope back inside the diploma holder, my heart pounding. I don't know yet. My phone lit up again. Another incoming call. Dad? I declined it without thinking. Rebecca frowned. Why aren't you answering? Because whatever it is. I glanced at the crowd, the noise, the lights. It's going to ruin today, and I'm not giving them that. The words tasted bitter but felt right. I wasn't going to let them hijack this moment, not again. But the phone wouldn't stop. Over and over, the same names flashing across the screen like a warning. My skin prickled, my palms slick with sweat. I could feel the envelope pressing against my arm through the holder. By the time the ceremony ended and we walked outside into the bright afternoon sun, I'd made a decision. I was going to read it. I stepped away from the chattering graduates, away from the smiling professors and the long line of parents, taking photos. I slipped into the quiet corner of the building, the air cooler here, shadows cutting across the brick. I slid my finger under the envelope's flap and pulled out a single folded sheet of paper. 4 short lines written in that same neat handwriting. As I read them, my heart stopped. My knees nearly buckled, and for the first time all day, I understood why they were calling me 72 times. My hands were trembling so badly I almost dropped the paper. The handwriting was careful, steady, but the words, they hit like a fist to the gut. Samantha, what you don't know is about to change everything. Your grandmother's estate was never divided. You're the sole inheritor. Call my office immediately. Before they do, Monsieur Turner, attorney at law. I read it once, twice, 3 times. My pulse was thundering in my ears. I hadn't even known my grandmother had an estate left to divide. My parents had always said she'd passed away with nothing but debts. They'd laughed about it, even, like the woman who'd raised my father had been a burden instead of family. But this was real. The weight of the paper, the precision of the handwriting, the name at the bottom. I knew Michael Turner. He'd been my grandmother's lawyer for decades. And the phrase that stuck out like a neon sign, before they do. I didn't need anyone to explain who they were. My phone buzzed again in my hand. Mom this time. I stared at the screen, the little thumbnail picture of her in the garden, smiling like she hadn't iced me out of every major family moment for years. Rebecca stepped closer, her voice low. Sam, what's in it? I shook my head. I can't. My voice cracked. I cleared my throat. I think my family's been lying to me for years, and now they know I know. Her eyes widened. What do you mean? I broke off because the phone buzzed again. Dad this time, followed by Danielle, then Mom again, back to back to back. They weren't stopping. My hands went clammy. This wasn't just them trying to congratulate me late. This was fear, panic. I shoved the letter into my bag, grabbed Rebecca's arm, and started walking fast toward the parking lot. The June sun was hot on my face, but my blood felt cold. "They'll come here," I muttered. "If they think I'm with people, they'll try to corner me. I need to get out before they find me." Rebecca's heels clicked against the concrete as she hurried to keep up. "Sam, you're scaring me. What is going on?" I stopped by my car, gripping the handle but not unlocking it yet. I looked at her dead in the eye. "They've been keeping something from me for years, and whatever it is, it's worth enough to make them drop Danielle's party and call me 72 times in 3 hours." Rebecca's brows drew together. "So, what are you going to do?" My stomach churned. The smart move would be to call Michael Turner immediately. But a darker part of me, the part still raw from every insult, every time they skipped out on my milestones, wanted to make them wait, wanted to watch them squirm, just like I'd been made to. The thought both thrilled and scared me. I finally unlocked the car, sliding into the driver's seat. My phone lit up again, this time with a text from Mom. "Don't sign anything. Don't talk to anyone. We're coming to you. Now." I stared at the words, my breath shallow. They knew I had the letter. They knew I could blow open whatever they'd been hiding. Rebecca leaned against the passenger door, eyes searching my face. "Sam, you can't face them alone if they're in this kind of frenzy." I looked out across the parking lot, half expecting to see my dad's SUV tearing in already. "I'm not going home," I said firmly, "and if they think they can control me like before, they're about to find out how wrong they are." Because for the first time in my life, I had leverage, and I was going to use it. I didn't even make it out of the campus parking lot before I saw them. A familiar black SUV came around the corner too fast, tires squealing slightly as it swung into the lane ahead of me. My stomach sank. Dad was driving, Mom in the passenger seat, Danielle in the back, all three of them craning their necks to look for me. "Damn it," I muttered, ducking slightly in my seat. I turned the key, engine roaring to life, and tried to reverse out of my space. But the SUV was already slowing down, blocking the aisle in a way that made it impossible for me to get around. Rebecca, who had just gotten into the passenger seat, glanced at me. "Sam, that's them, isn't it?" I gripped the steering wheel hard. "Yep, and they're not here to congratulate me." Dad's window rolled down, his voice booming across the lot. "Samantha, pull over right now. We need to talk." The tone wasn't concerned. It was urgent, commanding, the way he used to speak to me when I was 12 and had crossed a line. I kept my eyes straight ahead, pretending not to hear, but then Mom's voice came sharp and high-pitched. "Don't you dare walk away from us. This is serious." My pulse pounded in my temples. I could feel Rebecca's eyes on me. "Sam, what's your move here?" she asked quietly. I exhaled slowly. My move is not letting them corner me in the car like I'm some scared kid. I opened my door and stepped out. My heels hit the pavement hard. Every nerve in my body was buzzing as I walked toward their SUV. Dad killed the engine, climbed out, and stalked toward me. He didn't even say hello. "Where's the envelope?" Straight to it. No small talk. I tilted my head, forcing a small, cold smile. "Funny. I don't remember telling you there was an envelope." His jaw clenched. "Don't play games with me, Samantha. You have no idea what's at stake here." "Oh, I think I do," I said, my voice low but steady. "In fact, I think I might know more than you'd like me to." Danielle had gotten out too, her perfect white dress from the bridal shower wrinkling as she crossed her arms. "Sam, don't be dramatic. Just give it to Dad and let him handle it. You'll screw it up like you always do." That stung, but I didn't flinch. "You mean, like I screwed up by actually finishing my master's degree while the rest of you were busy making sure I was excluded from every family celebration?" Mom stepped forward then, her voice dropping into that fake sweet tone she used when she wanted me to fold. "Honey, this isn't about the past. This is complicated. It's about the family's future." I let the words hang for a moment before saying, "Whose future? Yours, Danielle's, or mine? The one Grandma apparently decided to leave everything to?" The flicker in her eyes told me I'd hit the nerve. Dad took another step forward, lowering his voice in a way that somehow made it more threatening. "You listen to me. That letter isn't a gift. It's a responsibility, and you don't have the experience to deal with it. If you hand it over now, we can make sure it's handled correctly. Rebecca stepped up beside me, folding her arms. Or, she could call the lawyer herself since it's addressed to her. Novel idea, huh? Danielle scoffed. Stay out of this. You're not family. I could feel the tension tightening around us like a noose. Cars were slowing down in the lane to watch, students pretending not to stare. And in that moment, I decided I wasn't going to cave. Not here, not ever again. You've ignored me, lied to me, humiliated me in front of people for years, I said, my voice firm. So if you think I'm going to hand over the first thing that might actually be mine, you've forgotten who you're talking to. Dad's nostrils flared. Mom's face went pale. Danielle's lips parted in shock. I stepped back toward my car, my heels clicking like punctuation. I'll be in touch, I said, and slammed my door shut. Rebecca's voice was low but tight with adrenaline. Sam, they're not going to let this go. I know, I said, pulling out of the space and steering past the SUV. And as I glanced in the mirror, I saw them standing there, 3 people who had never feared losing me before, suddenly realizing they might. Rebecca and I didn't say much as I drove out of the parking lot, but the silence wasn't comfortable. My grip on the steering wheel was tight, and every time I checked my rearview mirror, the same black SUV was there. They're following us, Rebecca said finally. I didn't even look over. I know? Sam, they're really following us. I know, I repeated, my jaw clenched. They think if they keep me in sight long enough, I'll get tired, pull over, and hand it over. Rebecca shifted in her seat, glancing behind us. They underestimate you. I gave a humorless laugh. They've been underestimating me my whole life. I turned down a side street, pretending to head toward the main road, but instead of taking the exit to the freeway, I cut sharply into a crowded grocery store parking lot and pulled up alongside a delivery van. I killed the engine, motioning for Rebecca to duck down in her seat. The SUV rolled past slowly, my dad craning his neck to look for us. They didn't see us. When they disappeared onto the main road, I exhaled. Okay, that buys us a few minutes. Rebecca sat up, brushing her hair back. Where now? Straight to Michael Turner's office, I said without hesitation, before they realize I'm not going home and try something else. But as I pulled back onto the road, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. If you go to him, you'll regret it. D. Danielle. I handed the phone to Rebecca, so I wouldn't be tempted to respond. Read it. She did, her eyes narrowing. Wow, she's not even pretending to be subtle. She never had to be, I said. They've always assumed I'd just back down. We drove in tense silence for another 15 minutes until I pulled into a small brick building with a gold plaque out front. Turner and Associates, attorneys at law. I grabbed my bag, the envelope inside feeling heavier than ever. As I stepped onto the sidewalk, my phone rang again. Mom. I let it go to voicemail, but the moment I reached the front door, a black sedan pulled up fast to the curb. My father stepped out before the car even fully stopped. Sam, wait! His voice carried across the quiet street. I ignored him, pulling the door open, but before I could step inside, he was there, his hand on the door frame, blocking my way. You don't want to do this, he said, his voice low but sharp. I met his eyes. You don't want me to do this? Mom appeared on the other side of the car, looking more flustered than I'd ever seen her. Please, sweetheart, let's just talk. You don't understand how complicated this is. You've had years to talk, I said, and every single time you've chosen silence. Dad's jaw tightened. You think you're ready to take on everything in that estate? The debts? The legal headaches? You'll drown, Sam. Rebecca stepped up behind me. Or maybe she'll swim just fine, without people trying to tie bricks to her ankles. Mom's eyes narrowed at Rebecca, then flicked back to me. You're being manipulated, I almost laughed. By the one person in my life who actually shows up for me? No, I think that's your department. I stepped forward, forcing my dad to move his arm and push the door open fully. But before I could cross the threshold, his voice stopped me. If you do this, Sam, we're done. The words were sharp, final. I turned back, meeting his stare. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears, but my voice was steady. You were done with me the day you decided I wasn't worth showing up for. Then I walked inside, letting the glass door shut behind me with a clean, satisfying click. The air inside the law office was cool and faintly smelled of polished wood and paper. A receptionist in a navy blouse looked up from her desk. "Can I help you?" she asked politely. "Yes," I said, steadying my breath. "I have an appointment with Michael Turner, Samantha Reed." She checked her screen, nodded, and motioned to the hallway. "He's expecting you." Those 3 words sent a ripple of unease through me. Expecting me. That meant this meeting had been set in motion before I even knew it existed. Rebecca gave my arm a small squeeze as we followed the receptionist down the hallway. Michael Turner's office door was already open. He was standing behind a mahogany desk, silver-haired, sharply dressed, and holding a folder thick enough to make my pulse spike. "Samantha," he said warmly, gesturing to the chair across from him. "Please, sit." I sank into the seat, clutching my bag. "I just got your letter." "I know," he said, folding his hands over the folder. "And I also know your family probably tried to get to you first." I gave a humorless laugh. "You could say that." He nodded slightly, as if this confirmed something he'd expected. Then he opened the folder and slid a stack of papers toward me. "Your grandmother's estate is substantial. Real estate holdings, investments, liquid assets. She named you sole beneficiary in her final will, signed 8 months before her death." My throat tightened. "But they told me she died broke." His eyes softened. "They didn't want you to know. The will was contested immediately after her passing. Your father and his sister filed claims, but they were dismissed. However, because you were under the impression she had no estate, you never claimed the assets. The accounts have been sitting, waiting." I stared at the numbers on the page, more zeros than I'd ever seen attached to my name. "And there's one more thing," Michael continued. "Your grandmother wrote a letter to accompany the will. It's personal." He handed me a cream-colored envelope. My hands shook as I opened it and unfolded the page. "My dearest Sam, I know they've made you feel like the smallest voice in the room. I want you to know, you were always the one I trusted, the only one who didn't look at me for what I could give, but for who I was. This is yours, because I know you'll do good with it. Don't let them take it from you." I swallowed hard, my vision blurring for a moment. Rebecca leaned in. "Sam, this changes everything." I looked at Michael. "What happens now? You can claim the assets immediately. Or if you'd like, we can arrange a formal reading of the will with your family present." His lips twitched slightly. "That tends to make things very clear." I didn't even hesitate. "Set the meeting." 2 days later, we sat in the same office, but this time, Mom, Dad, and Danielle were across from me. The tension was so thick you could hear the faint hum of the air conditioner over our breathing. Michael read the will aloud, every word like a hammer to the lies they'd built. When he finished, the silence was deafening. Dad's face flushed an ugly red. This is ridiculous. She can't." "She can," Michael interrupted smoothly. "And she did. The court has already dismissed your prior claims." Mom's lips pressed so tight they turned white. Danielle's eyes darted between us, calculating, scrambling. I set my grandmother's letter on the desk between us, my voice calm but edged with steel. "You told me she had nothing. You watched me struggle through school while you kept this from me. And now, you want me to believe you care about my well-being?" Mom's voice cracked. "Sam, we were just trying to protect you." "No," I cut in sharply. "You were protecting yourselves." They had no reply to that. When the meeting ended, Michael slid the final paperwork to me. My signature was crisp and sure. It was done. As we stood, I met my father's eyes one last time. "You were right about one thing. This is the family's future. The difference is, I'm not giving it back." Rebecca and I walked out into the sunlight together. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "We need to talk, please." I turned the screen off without replying. For the first time in years, the silence felt like mine.